Sox in the basement.
I'm the Sox nerd with my weekly Sox Stumper. Lamar Hoyt is one of two right-handers to lead the White Sox in strikeouts between 1973 and 1985. Who was the other? I'll have my answer at the end of my spiel later in the podcast.
I finally got to put the Jeep through its paces yesterday.
You were storm chasing.
Yes, I didn't intend to. I was out in Lamont. Like, we're recording on Thursday for the Friday release. So I'm out in Lamont on Wednesday night. They do a thing called Cruise Nights where they bring out all these classic cars and there's food vendors and it's just like a big street party. And it's like every Wednesday in the summer. And so I went out there to go record for the Lamont Unlocked podcast. And while I'm out there recording, like, the weather looked like it was going to be okay. In fact, they had discussions that day, like, are we going to do this? And it looked like everything was going to blow past them. And as the event's going on, you can see the clouds moving from west to east to the north of Lamont. Like, it doesn't look like it's going to come anywhere near them. So the party's continuing. And then all of a sudden, you felt the wind change. As if it was turned. Like, yeah, the storm was like, I'm going to make a right turn here. And you could just see it coming. And suddenly it's like a panic. Like, in that video, which I think will be out next week, like, the School of Rock in Lamont is playing Guns N' Roses' Take Me Down to Paradise City as the storm is hitting. Like, it's an amazing shot.
They should have been playing Cold November Rain.
Maybe, but I'm like in the middle of the interview with the guy, and I'm like, we got to finish this interview. We're about to get hit. And it's quick, right? So I make my way into a nearby place, like, and I find a table, which is crazy because all the restaurants now are packed. And I wait out the storm for a couple hours. So now I'm driving back down, going out of Lamont on Calsag Road. I don't know if it's still called Calsag when it goes through Lamont, but I mean, it's all that same road to go back towards Payless. Okay, and then work my way back home. And they're so flooded on that road that there were cars underwater. There was a guy whose car was underwater over the hood, standing there, waving his arms. And like he's trying to push his car, and at that point, you got to go get yourself to safety. Your car's done for, big guy. Okay, you probably shouldn't have driven it into the river because it was clearly deep. Now, on the other hand, I'm driving a Jeep. So the police
drove past that guy and waved, huh?
The police showed up. The Cook County Sheriff's Police showed up right around that time, right? Like, they're going to stop people from going through it. But I kind of got a nod. Like, he can make it. And so I rolled down the window. I had the kids in the car, roll down the window, and I just was like, as long as it doesn't come over this one point, I know the Jeep can go in there. Like, generally, it goes in several feet of water. They're rated for it. Like, I've looked it up. So I knew where my marker was, and I stayed just above that marker. And I crossed the river, essentially, in the Jeep. I felt so cool.
It's like the Oregon Trail, but,
Yeah, I had to forge the Jeep, and cross the river. And I didn't get swept away. I didn't lose any oxen. I didn't lose any children. We didn't get dysentery. We made it home safe. But I got to use the Jeep.
You did pass a guy who, should have caulked and floated.
Yeah, I watched something else happen to somebody else, and the police were there. They were going to take care of him, but I made it.
Yeah, exactly.
We cheered and we drove away. It was amazing. Okay, we have listener mail today I want to get into because it really talks about a lot of things going on with this team. So we might as well let the listeners who go to soxinthebasement.com and leave messages, we might as well let them steer the conversation today. So I'm just going to randomly go through those in the YouTube comments while we're on the show. This episode of Sox in the Basement, just like every episode of Sox in the Basement, brought to you proudly by Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living, make it so they can get around on their own and live independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, and even bathroom remodeling. They work with your insurance. That's important. And they have 0% financing for qualified individuals. You can redo the bathroom. And they're working with your insurance on why it needs to be done, and they're giving you 0% finance. I mean, that's a great deal. Make sure you check out what they can do for you. CPAP machines, if you're unhappy with your vendor, switch now. Get supplies directly mailed to you. Come in, try out all the latest and greatest, figure out what works. They have testing rooms in Evergreen Park where their showroom is. See it all at hhme.com. All right, so here we go. There's a lot to talk about with this team. They took 2 out of 3 from the Guardians. And, I know people are upset about the third game. I get it. You're upset. You want to win every game. I want to win every game too. The bullpen's atrocious. I understand it. We all feel the same way. Dean wrote in and asked, is Will Venable trying to prove a point. This is like something out of Moneyball, where the GM is forcing the manager's hand and saying Dominguez is our closer. You can tell the moment he misses his first splitter, he's done. I actually watched Garfien and Ozzy last night and couldn't agree more with their assessment and stats showing Taylor's success in save situations and Dominguez's quote-unquote success in the setup role. Fact is, this guy is costing you $10 million per year, and it seems like management is trying to showcase him to be flipped. He should be used in non-leverage situations to regain his confidence, and definitely not showcased in divisional games. On the flip side, starting to like Acuna because he's a menace on the base paths, and as usual, son of Sam, which I believe is Sam Antonacci, great, comes through in the clutch, and Murphy turns out to be the unsung hero in Monday night's game. So that is from Dean. There's a lot to unpack there. But the one thing I want to say before you jump in, buddy, I agree with the fact Dominguez is not a closer. But then again, $10 million a year for a setup man or a high leverage guy that isn't closing is kind of the going rate. I think that they shouldn't feel hamstrung to put him in that closer's role, and they should be out there shopping for a real closer before the deadline.
Well, Sean Newcomb's making a decent amount of money, and he's a setup guy, so there's nothing wrong with paying your late inning guys. The only problem I have is Grant Taylor. There's this thought that Grant Taylor is the closer on this team, and when you look at him in save situations, he's got a 3.27 ERA versus a 3.63 ERA in non-save situations. Okay, so you think that sounds good, but his WHIP in save situations is 1.455. That's not going to get it done.
That is bad.
And what I think ends up happening when you look at the batting average that's higher, the slugging percentage that's higher against him, the strikeouts per walks, the ratio is higher. I think he goes for the K a little too much, and I think he gets too amped up. Sir Anthony Dominguez, way better in that non-save role. He's got a 0.77 ERA in non-save situations. It's fantastic. Brian Hudson's probably the guy that should be in that situation, because in save situations this year, 9 games, 8 innings, he's got a WHIP of 0.750 in save situations, and he's had 3 saves. The batting average is lower, the on-base percentage, the slugging, OPS, it's all lower against him in save situations. And I have a dark horse that you're going to hate. But
are you going to say Jordan Hicks?
For his career, he's much better as a closer than he is as a setup guy.
He's too wild. You're going to get the same thing you get from Dominguez. He can't find the plate. I would never want him in there. Never. I would never want him in there. And when you look at his save situations, that was years ago. He hasn't been used in that in a long time. He was an effective pitcher when he first got to the majors, if I'm not mistaken, with the Cardinals. But he hasn't been that in a while. We've talked about this before with relief pitchers. It's an ebb and a flow. Some of them are failed starters or become really good relief pitchers. Some of them have really good years and then fall back off again. I mean, Liam Hendriks had a really great time in his life where he was good. But there's bookends on either side, plus the fact that when he was trying to be a starter that are not very good. Don Paul's been on this show before and talked about the idea that if you get up to a bad start, you notice your stats every time they put it up on the board and you never seem to recover from it. And then the next year, you're a completely different pitcher. We've had relief pitchers on that have been in the organization who have kind of explained that to us. Sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're cold. I don't think this guy has it. And I definitely don't think I don't think Dominguez has it for closing. I don't think Hicks has it at all. And they got to figure out what they're going to do. The one thing they're not going to be able to do that I keep seeing suggested, especially on the YouTube channel, but anywhere where we have comments, is the idea that you got to go out and get 3 or 4 or 2 or 3 relief pitchers. You cannot give up all your prospects. It's too early in this thing. You could trade a prospect for a relief pitcher, but you can't go out and deal 4 to 5 prospects away and go for it. You're not good enough for that right now. You've got a young team. You're going to go for something. You're going to try. You're going to make an attempt. But you have to be smart about this, because this team is set up to be really good for like a decade or more. They've got a great base and they've got guys still coming up behind. So that's my one thing. They've got to do something. They can only do so much. This team is still over 500, tied in first place as we're sitting here, we're talking, doing far better than anything we could have expected in 2026. They're ahead of schedule, and these guys will be back. They're going to be around for a while. So it's not going to go the way that you want this to go. You're going to lose games every once in a while. I'm frustrated with that 3rd game in the Cleveland series. They should have won it. But on the other hand, I got to take a step back and look at the big picture and say, man, they're a good team. They win more than they lose in close games. But the bullpen is the biggest problem they have.
Right, and guys have got to execute. And if that means that, say, Grant Taylor needs to have somebody sit down and talk to him and be like, look, in these higher leverage situations, you got to rear back and throw the way you do when the pressure's off. And he's a young guy. He's got to learn that. And if it's Venable managing the situation better, like I said, the clear option for right now is to sit there and say Brian Hudson, who is arguably your best reliever, should be closing. Dominguez, who is used to being a setup guy, and I'm sure is fine with it. Make him your setup guy with Newcomb, and there's opportunities there.
I'd let Sean Newcomb close. When he brought him in for the 2 1/3 inning the other day, or 2 2/3 inning when he came in, I think he piggybacked him right. He went Sean Burke to Newcomb, if I remember that right.
Yeah, it was all Sean's all the time.
It was all Sean's all the time. That was brilliant. He could have sat there and said, okay, I'm going to play righty lefty. He loves the handedness thing. He's a slave to handedness at the plate and with pitchers.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't do it. He had guys warmed up in the bullpen. And thankfully, when the last guy came up and wasn't a lefty but was a righty, he said, no, that guy's dialed in. I'm letting Sean Newcomb pitch. Sean Newcomb may be about to have a renaissance in his career. A lot of starting pitchers who are kind of middling, bottom of the rotation guys, figure something out in a bullpen, and the next thing you know, they're the big closer or they're a big leverage guy, and he actually has a longer career and he makes more money. I see that for Sean Newcomb right now. He's in the perfect situation on a really good team that keeps games close, and he's starting to earn the trust of his manager, who's looking desperately for somebody to trust. For exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high-pressure sales. They're not showing up, showing you some example window, telling you close your eyes and imagine what it would look like in your house. Here's a couple of pictures in a book, and then telling you this is the deal until I walk out the door, and then I don't know if I'll ever get you that deal again. That's how a lot of window salespeople work. Or they tell you, we can do your whole house for this price, but there's a little asterisk in the commercial, right? And then when they show up, it turns out your one window is just a little bit different than the standard size. And all of a sudden, it's a big project that costs a lot more money than you thought. You're not getting that with Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. Owners are in showroom, on site, for all your questions. All of their own installers. They don't farm out the work. They've been doing it that way in Oak Forest since 1985, with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. Big White Sox fans over there. They got season tickets. They're always offering them to me. I'm going to have to take them up right after I get back from my vacation that's coming up. I think I'm going to take them up on that.
Well, there you go.
Great people over there at Window and Door Superstore. Okay, here's John Tabiri. Remember, if you put your whole name in, I'm saying it. Writing in after that Sam Antonacci walk-off hit. Earlier in the game, Steve Stone brought up how he was talking to himself in the batter's box and how things are all good as long as he doesn't answer himself. Ha ha. I noticed he does this angry self-talk when he's batting in and at bat regularly. I love how he plays with his hair on fire, such a clutch player so far. Of course, some base running blunders and some other rookie mistakes, but overwhelmingly, he's a positive piece. I hope he is a long-term stay on the Sox. I think he's a long-term stay on the Sox.
I think he is going to be the left fielder of the White Sox for a very long time, unless he becomes the second baseman for some reason. But they were talking about it in the booth with Schifrin and Fletcher, and Mike Vassell was up there with him, about how Sam Antonacci could not be a nicer, more polite, quiet guy off the field. But Vassell was saying as soon as he gets between the lines, he's insane in the best way. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm okay with Sam Antonacci talking to himself, because baseball is a game of adjustments. Okay. And if you're seeing something, say something, right? How long have we heard that? I mean, it's not about, in-game adjustments to what a pitcher's doing to you normally, but Sam Antonacci wants to talk to himself. He wants to put tape on his helmet because it makes him feel better. That's great. And I don't think that these are rookie mistakes that he's making. I think that these are mistakes of aggression that you're going to see out of him
forever
and ever.
Yeah, it's not Aaron Rowan on the base paths. I think our generation, those that remember 05, I mean, he pissed Ozzie off in the middle of the World Series at one point, trying to take a base that he shouldn't have taken. But his mistakes were, he didn't get it. I don't think it was over aggressiveness. He just made those mistakes sometimes. He didn't judge things properly. Antonacci's just aggressive. It's his game. He's a pest. He's a nuisance. He's an annoyance. He screams after he draws a walk. You need guys on your team. It would be a big mistake if they couldn't find a regular spot for him as long as he's performing well enough to be on this team. I think he's long-term just for that.
I mean, honestly, if in most seasons where you have one rookie come up, okay, where you have basically one guy that you sit there and go, okay, this is part of our future. If Sam Antonacci was this way on a team of established veterans only, and not a team that has first-year players in, basically, up and down the lineup, with Tristan Peters is obviously one of them. We've seen Braden Montgomery now. You have Murakami when he's here. You've had Drew Romo as a new player. You've had, there's guys that have been in the lineup regular that are new. If Antonacci had that spotlight as the lone rookie, I think you would be sitting and we'd be clamoring more for him to be getting more votes as, like, say, rookie of the year candidate. He's not going to get it. He's not even going to come close to being rookie of the year, but he's that kind of a guy that you're going to sit there and go, we're glad he's here. We want him on the team. And if he ever got traded, it would be, pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, you mentioned Mike Vasil. Going back to our conversation, before I get to the next listener mail piece, going back to our conversation on the last show where you were like, there's no way that he could be using that wad to tip pitches. John Boy had a breakdown. And Mike Vasil, we missed it. He actually was asked about it, and he's like, look, I'm going to do anything I can to help the batter.
Okay, Mike Vasil's smarter than I am then.
and then Will Venable's comments almost suggested it too. And Venable was like, everything we're doing is above board. We're not breaking any rules. But you see, here's the thing. If you steal a sign, if you figure out a tip pitch and you relay it, you can do that as long as you're not using video. You can use that. You can do it without technology. Now, you brought
I've been
up
doing it for 100 plus years.
Now, the funny thing was, even in the breakdown, he was like, I don't understand how you steal a pitch and then how you relay it with all the pitch count stuff, right? So, even in the breakdown, there was confusion. I'm going off of what Vasil says and what his manager says after the game. As they're kind of saying, yeah, we're doing stuff, but we're not breaking any rules. But I don't know how you get around it. And that is very interesting to me.
Here's how it is. Mike Vasil's a pitcher, okay? Pitchers know very well that you tip your pitches. Okay, there are some things that you can pick up on. It's arm placement, foot placement. Sometimes it's how long they rest. Sometimes it's whether they fiddled with the ball in their glove before they deliver the pitch. There's a lot of things that go into it because you change your grip, and you can change, there's been guys that have been caught, for example, where they'll go up on their back toe to get a little extra push on a fastball, but they stay flat-footed on a breaking ball or a changeup, right? Or they drag their leg or something.
Right. And Skubal is a left-handed pitcher. Vasil was on that side of him, and the batter was facing Vasil during that exchange.
Yeah. So if Tarik Skubal if Skubal himself is doing something to tip his pitches, that's baseball. Okay. That has been going on forever. If you cannot figure that out for yourself as a pitcher on the mound, that you're doing that, or more likely if you're catcher or your pitching coach or somebody else, one of your teammates, don't yell at Mike Vasil if you're tipping your pitches. Yell at your first baseman for not telling you. Yell at Dylan Dingler for not telling you that, you have an obvious tell the way you set up that you're going to throw a changeup. You have an obvious tell the way you hold your glove that you're throwing a fastball. If Vasil picks up on it and he's relaying that to the hitters, good for him. Okay. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do in the dugout. If you're a bench player, if you're a pitcher on your day off and you're not charting pitches actively that game, that's why you sit at the top of the dugout to sit there and look at pitchers, look at the opponents and figure out, hey, do they have something that they're doing that we can exploit? That's the game. That's the game right there. There's nothing wrong with it. And unless that wand is actually an antenna that is intercepting the pitch count.
We're going to have so much fun with this all year long now. We really are. We're going to have fun with this. And you know what? This is fun. Look, when I mentioned this story at the beginning, I got caught in a bar restaurant in Lamont, and I had the kids there, right? And there were a lot of people who got their kids in there. And there was a family in there. They had little kids, the mom, the dad, the little kids, and then grandma and grandpa was there. And grandpa was wearing his 1983 commemorative road jersey with the patches on it for the postseason. Proudly while he was sitting there, like he was a Sox fan. He was cheering for the Mets openly and kind of got into a back and forth with a couple of Cub fans who were mad at him for cheering against the Cubs inside the bar. Okay, he was fired up. He's listening now because I gave him a card. I'm like, hey, man, Sox in the Basement, I do this show. You're going to love this. right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, exactly. But like one of the things he looked at me and he goes, I get frustrated, but isn't this fun? Like this is fun again. And that's the thing. This is fun. We're going to have so many fun conversations about what they're doing. I love the fact that this team, like you see them, batter comes back and goes, this is what he's doing, and tells the other batter. There's constant communication. I heard Sean Burke the other day say, well, I thank God. This is what he said. I thank God that I'm with the Chicago White Sox. This is God's team, of course, because of the Pope.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. And he's out there thanking God he's part of this team. But he said the reason is it feels like a college baseball team. Yeah, we're young, but I mean, there's nothing but communication. There's no egos. We don't know any better. We don't know any better if we can beat this team or not. We're just going to go out and try to beat you. This is the kind of baseball we've been yearning for forever. If you've been yearning, here's my transition. If you've been yearning for a record collection app that works better than all the other ones, Moose Vinyl.
Good segue.
Is an app for record collectors to manage and record their collections, buy and sell their records. It's available on iPhone, coming to Android soon. Moose Vinyl is a newer, streamlined app designed for collectors that allows importing CSV files from other platforms you may have used before, so you can continue to manage your collection in a better and more user-friendly interface. They now have a brick-and-mortar record store as well for you to go and experience. You can actually check out the app there. That they have point of sale. They don't have the record. They will immediately order the record through their own app there at the store and get you it. So everything's available if you're looking for something when you go to B-Sides by Moose Vinyl in Lamont downtown at 238 Main Street. They're selling turntables and vintage audio equipment at discount through the month of July. Check out Moose Vinyl today. All right, one more here on the listener mail. I don't know if we'll get to another one. And we have the Sox Nerd here in just a little bit. This one I'm going to read. I want to preface this as we've gotten a few of these over the last week or so. And I'm reading it because at some point I just feel like I just have to address it. But I mean, like, here we go. Joe Kallenbach says, although White Sox Charities Day is always fun, and this year's podcast t-shirt contest is a good cause, they totally missed the mark on this one. Everyone, and I mean every true White Sox fan, knows that Sox in the Basement is far and away the best White Sox podcast and the only podcast I listen to across all subjects. Thanks for all you do. Now, I read that humbly, saying I'm not reading that to pick on other White Sox podcasts. I appreciate that Joe likes us. We're Joe's favorite. We're not everybody's favorite. That's why variety is the splice of life. Okay.
I mean, there's how many White Sox fans are there out there? And I know not everyone listens to us. Not everyone listens.
Some of them hate us.
Podcasts.
I get people who write hateful messages. They hurt my feelings, Ed. They don't. But I mean,
a friend of my 8th grade son, now a freshman in high school, apparently wanted to say hi to me a couple months ago, but my kid just forgot to tell me until yesterday. So, hi back, buddy. Okay. But yeah, I mean, we have 8th graders listening to us.
Yeah, that's the youngest that we have. I think if I look at the numbers, we actually trend older. We trend older, and that's fine because we're old. So we
run the gamut.
We see things a little bit different, but we run the gamut. Here's the deal. I just want to kind of, first of all, good for White Sox Charities, good for those podcasts that were involved. For years, the White Sox did everything they could to push out alternative media and treat them badly. Okay. Now that said, we're a very different podcast than the entities that were part of that charity drive. All right.
Yes.
We have a different goal in mind. There's differences in how we do our things compared to other people. This is a podcast network, right? This is my job. I've been working for myself for over 8 years. Ed helps me out. I pay him. I probably don't pay him enough, but I mean, like, this is what I do. There are multiple shows. This is just one of them. I do this one because I'm a White Sox fan and I love it, and I wouldn't do it if we didn't have so many listeners. But we have so many listeners that we're able to sell advertising, so it's part of the show. But I have things that I'm not interested in. And this was explained to me one time by somebody within the White Sox front office, who I will hold back who said it because I don't want to burn that bridge. But this is somebody who you've heard their name before in the White Sox front office, who years ago looked at me and said, don't ever change. There are people that listen to you in here. There are people that don't like you. There are people that like you. But the one thing that you do that's different is that you're not trying to get a job with the White Sox. You're not trying to launch your media career. You've already been on the radio. You've already done what you want to do. You don't care if you upset us, and you're going to say whatever you want to say. The White Sox are not going to let me have a t-shirt. What would my slogan be? Aloha and F Jerry?
Right.
Like, that's the only phrase I could think of that we do. We talk so much crap about the owner
Don't
on this
worry,
team.
he's pushing 90.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. We talk so much crap about the owner. They're never involving us in that stuff. It's been it's been conveyed to me. I know it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because I'd rather be able to be completely and totally forthright on my feelings about the owner. And I don't besmirch people that hold back. Because like where we're doing what we're doing because we like doing the show and it's for profit. I mean, this is a business for me, but it's also my most fun show that I do. There are other shows where these guys have day jobs. Okay? These guys and girls have day jobs that are doing these other shows or in these other entities, right? A lot of them do. And access is far more important to them. Okay? At least 2 of those 3 podcast groups have told me at some point their number one goal is access. They want to be around the team. They want to be able to go do things like this. They don't care about the other stuff. It's access. And good for them. That's what they want to do. It's kind of like their hobby. They make friends through it. That's awesome. And I don't besmirch that in any way. We're just different. And because we're different and we have different goals, we won't get asked to go do those things. And I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it. And look, the 108 guys, I like them. When we see each other, we get beers, we laugh, we tell stories. They ask about my dating life now that I'm divorced. They were in my basement when I was married. Okay? They're good dudes. All right? They like the same places we like. They go to Cork and Carry at the park just like we do. There's a bobblehead of them right behind there. They got a little video thing that pops up behind the bar. We got a big giant banner out in front. We get along just fine, right? But we do things very differently. Right. And that's the thing. We're just
completely different shows.
Very different shows. So don't get upset. Like some of the messages, that was the nicest one. Some of the messages were angry. Like people were mad that we got left out of it or mad at the other shows. Don't be mad at the other shows. Okay. They're just different. We do different things. We have different subject matters. We run our shows differently. But trust me, we collaborate sometimes. I have told those guys things that I do that might help them out. They've told me things that they do that might help me out. It's good behind the scenes. All right. So don't worry about that stuff. I never expect. When I saw that, I was like, "Wow, good for those guys." It would never be us.
I said the same thing, and I remembered back, years ago when we did try and sell some shirts, and we were basically every one of our shirts was a shot at the team.
Every one of them was a shot at the team. How can you imagine John Schriffen having to interview me about the shirt that we created after everything I've said about him?
No.
Okay, so like, don't be surprised that we're not involved. We're gonna stay here in our little corner right here and be the voice that shouts in the darkness.
We're gonna stay in our angry little corner.
We're just a couple of
angry old men.
Right, we're just 2 angry old men that just want to be angry. So just
yeah. This is catharsis for us, okay? We've been yelling about Chicago sports teams for years. This is how we roll. Trust me, if we were doing Bears in the basement, we'd be yelling about the McCaskies.
Right, I'd be screaming about them.
Bulls in the basement, we'd still be yelling about the Reinsdorfs. And we'd be yelling about the Wirtz family. So,
I mean, like if I were doing a Blackhawks show right now, I'd be yelling about that trade. If I were doing a Bears show,
I'd be like, what a terrible trade.
If I was doing a Bears show right now, I'd be screaming about Kevin Warren. I'd be like, what did this guy accomplish? I mean, he's screwed up this whole thing, right? Like I'd be yelling about him. If I was doing a Bulls show, man, we would have been canceled years ago.
The Bulls show, yeah, well.
I would have given up. I would have said nothing.
Anything about the Bulls anyway. Come on.
Here's the funniest thing. Like that fan base has it harder than anybody in the city, as far as I'm concerned.
Good draft pick last night.
That was good. But you know what?
That was good.
That fan base has it harder than everybody else in the city because they know what it's like when you're really, really good. And I don't know if they're ever getting back to that. Chris Getz, within constraints with Reinsdorf, is going to find a way to put together a winner and sustain it. And then at some point, Justin Ishbia is going to come in here and he is going to spend money. And then it's going to be full speed ahead with your the pedal to the metal, foot to the floor.
The funny part is, I bet you Justin Ishbia doesn't spend money like, say, the Mets or the Dodgers. I bet you he just spends money like he should.
Yeah.
Just somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Let's be honest. Chris Getz is auditioning. Like if he does a good job and this front office does a good job, then he gets kept. But I'm sure he's in that building right now going, I don't know what happens when the other guy comes in. The one thing I have heard, and I'll end with this before the Sox Nerd jumps on. I have heard through sources within the team that the upper echelon is operating as though they are probably going to that property that he built at some point. I've heard that.
Okay.
I've heard that.
Okay.
That they are at least operating under the belief that at some point that's going to happen. They may be wrong. They may not have the full plan, but there is a thought process within that front office. Okay. Or in that operations market or wherever. there is a thought process that we could very well be moving at some point when the new guy takes over. But we don't know what day he's taking over. We don't know what he's going to do. All I know is that I'm just excited that somebody else will be in there at some day. That music means the Sox nerd. Dave Marin is on the line with his trivia nuggets and tidbits that he puts up on the scoreboard at the rate during all the home games. And then he brings even more to us at Sox in the Basement each and every week. And he's brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore. Check out the cruise nights that I mentioned each and every Wednesday. I talked about that at the beginning of the show. I don't imagine they'll have a storm like that again during it, but who knows, man? It's rained like every Wednesday. I looked at the calendar for the last 4 weeks.
Illinois is the tornado capital of the U.S. right now.
Yeah,
so.
I think Tornado Alley moved, and it somehow goes right through us. Visit
I blame
Lamont.
Sam Antonacci.
See more at LamontDowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for us?
Chris, let's talk about Sean Newcomb, shall we? What a couple of days the veteran lefty had last week. On Sunday, he opened and fired 3 perfect innings in Detroit. On Tuesday, he saved the Sox bacon in a home win over Cleveland. Let's break it down. Newcomb's open against the Tigers was brilliant. He fired 3 perfect innings and then departed in his first start of the season. The only White Sox starters to throw more perfect innings in a game were Charles Robertson in 1922, Mark Burley in 2009, and Philip Umber in 2012. They, of course, fashioned perfect games. Prior to Newcomb, the Sox record for most perfect innings in a start was 2, done 7 times, running from Ed Seacott on May 8, 1918, to Grant Taylor on April 12, 2026. Newcomb's second save of the season came on Tuesday against Cleveland and probably was the most clutch pitching performance of the season so far. With the bullpen depleted from a harrowing victory the night before, Newcomb took over for starter Sean Burke and navigated the final 2 2/3 innings in securing a 2-1 win, which returned the Sox to first place. Newcomb's 7th career save was the longest by a Sox lefty since Boone Logan finished off a 13-3 win at Seattle with 3 innings of 1-run relief on April 25, 2006. The last lefty to toss more than Newcomb's 2 2/3 innings for a save at home was Damaso Marte, who went 3 scoreless against the Angels on August 20th, 2003. By the way, since 1969, the Sox all-time leader among lefties with saves of at least 2.2 innings is that big tub of goo himself, Terry Forster, at 21. Forster is also the Sox all-time leader among southpaws with 75 saves. If you don't know the history of the big tub of goo, it's worth a Google. One more nugget on these perfect outings. Wednesday marked the 8th time this season a Sox pitcher had been pulled with a perfect game. That is the most in the majors, with the Padres second at 5 and the Rockies and Nationals tied for second at 2 each. Taylor has been yanked 3 times, Brian Hudson twice, and Newcomb, Brandon Eisert, and Chris Murphy once each with a perfecto. Only 3 of those outings, 2 by Taylor and 1 by Hudson, have been only 1 inning. And if I can go off book for a minute here, from my perch at the rate, I get a good view of a lot of things. Lately, I've noticed what a good third baseman Colson Montgomery is. He looks comfortable there and really does a good job of approaching ground balls. It's such a nuanced thing, but I've noticed he rounds off grounders so that his momentum is taking him to first, which makes the throw easier. All this from a guy who had 12 pro games at the hot corner before joining the Sox last season. It just goes to show you can never go wrong drafting a shortstop. Before I get to my stumper answer and zinger, I remind you gems like these and more can be found on my WordPress blog, which you can find at soxinthebasement.com. I'm also on X, Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. My stumper answer: I asked who joined Lamar Hoyt as the only Sox righties to lead the team in strikeouts between 1973 and 1985, and it was Rich Gossage, with 135 in 1976, which was the only year he was a full-time starter in his Hall of Fame career. My zinger: the 1983 winning Ugg League team, which is reuniting this weekend, really took off in the second half of that season. And one of the catalysts of that charge has kind of been lost among the icons of that team like Fisk, Hill, and Baines. Scott Fletcher, Brooks' dad, hit a searing .429 in July as the 1983 Sox were charging to the AL West title. That average was the highest by a Sox player since 1960 and second in the majors that year to Evergreen Park native Jim Dwyer's 474. That's it, Chris. Probably more than you wanted to know about Perfect Openers, The Hot Corner, and July Juggernauts.
Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement.
Socks in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on socksinthebasement.com.